Welcome, everybody. This is Ray of RebelEars.com. I want to thank everybody who's listening to the podcast today. So there's a lot of things going on in the world right now. So everybody know about the COVID-19, the coronavirus. And right now for 2 weeks, most jobs right now are on a pause. So a lot of people are just stuck at home, self-quarantine for 2 weeks. There's some jobs that's still open, but a lot of companies are taking precautions, sending emails out from Walmart to Starbucks to Stock Exchange to Amazon, Google. They're all sending out these emails telling everybody that, they're taking precaution, telling everybody to, stay at home, don't be at social events because, it's a serious pandemic. It's global. But I'm thinking that a lot of people should take advantage of these 2 weeks to actually figure out what do they want to do with their lives. So I'm not talking about people who are already driven and focused. I'm talking about people who, I've been talking to a lot of people and just asking them what they're doing for the next 2 weeks. A lot of them was telling me, just sit at home, watch a lot of TV, catch up on shows, spending time with family. So out of all those, I believe that, of course, spend time with family. But a lot of people were just surprising me how they just didn't know what they was going to do. So with me, I know for a fact I'm taking advantage of getting a lot of mixes done that I didn't get a chance to do. Work on the website, RebelEars.com. Work on the YouTube channel. Work on interviews with different artists and producers. I'm not going to do it at the studio. I might do it from, 2 different locations. That's possible. It's just really giving me a chance to really focus on what I'm trying to get done because these 2 weeks are going to go by so quick and a lot of people are going to feel like they just, use that time doing nothing. So I would recommend people to just at least take the time to figure out what they want to do. When it comes to the coronavirus, a lot of people, like I said, have been self-quarantined at home. This is the best time to start a YouTube channel. Express how you feel about the situation. This is the best time to go through emails that you haven't gone through in like months. This is the best time to connect with someone you haven't connected with on the phone. Just give them a call, seeing how they doing. I also believe it's a good time to catch up on some reading, especially self-help books, financially, relationship-wise. This is the best time to spend time with your significant other. If you're a producer, this is the best time for you to produce, like build your catalog. I was talking to this one producer at JB Hoodrich event, the layover at Sephora Lounge. Shout out to JB. We was talking mainly, so just to let y'all know, the producer name is Wells, Wellz. We was talking more on the lines of, taking advantage of, this 2 weeks. And he's a dope producer. So getting, him and I, we talked a few. And I was asking him, was he building his content, his material, just to get more people involved with what he's doing? He told me at the time, no. And one thing I really respect about Wells, because he tell you straight up, hey, an excuse is an excuse. Because he's one of those type of people who just, tell you straightforward how he's feeling. He's always been honest, and he's more in depth than a lot of individuals I talk to. He's more insightful. So when he told me that, it was just him taking the first step because, that's the first thing you got to do. You got to admit that, you either procrastinate or you don't know what you're doing or you're just lazy, don't want to do nothing. Every person's different. With me, I'm always trying to think on the next thing I can accomplish, what I can do, how I can benefit the team, even working on myself. So with Wells, I told him it was the night before. I told him the next day, you think you're going to be able to create content? He told me I could create content tonight. So I was like, okay. So basically, for a lot of artists and producers I talked to, even engineers, they was talking about coming up with material in-house. And I do know a lot of people who I talk to, they always talking about their background, what's around the house. Like they don't want to film what's going on. I told them simply, you can just record your screen. Like if you're using Fruity Loops, record the screen on Fruity Loops and then explain what you're doing. You can use different apps to, put subtitles in. You don't always have to use what's around you. You just got to find out ways to broaden what you use. Like if you follow me on my IG at rebelears.ray, so REBELEARS, rai. You can actually see I post a lot of different things like behind the green screen because I'm building up material when it comes to like with the podcast. Some of it's going to be on YouTube with sessions behind me, so people can ask questions while I'm talking about the 3 topics at hand. They might see me doing like strip silence. They might see me compressing the vocals or using a plugin they never heard of. And that's when they can comment saying like, around this time, what was that plugin you used? And I can get more in depth with that. That's how you build content. You know, with this podcast, I can always figure out little things here and there that I can use for Twitter. With Twitter, I can always, recycle what I post and put it on Instagram with a random photo. Like all this is on my IG, so you can see it. Another thing when it comes to building your content, the reason why you want to do this is because you're building a story so people can see like how you started off, how you staying consistent, relevant, because that's like the music industry. You might hear a hot artist for like a few months, and then as time goes by, his traffic is dropping because he's not staying consistent with his fan base or staying on social media or even performing, because what happens, artists get comfortable with doing a couple of shows, make a lot of money, and then as time goes by, they get comfortable and they figuring out that it's hard to, get back on top when you was once up there and you go down. So trying to find a way through these 2 weeks to stay consistent. Matter of fact, these 2 weeks, you can come up with 4 to 5 months worth of materials. So a lot of people thinking like, how is that possible? So, okay, good example. Let's take 3 days to do like 4 weeks. So the first thing you would do, okay, let's say the first day. Let's say you wake up, depending on your time, you wake up at 10, 11 in the morning. And the only thing you got to really do, probably cook, take a shower, clean up around the house. If you got a son or a daughter, make sure they're okay. If you got a girlfriend, wife, husband, a boyfriend, spend time with them. But make sure you take time to decide to at least do 2 to 3 hours of work. So, okay, so in 3 days, 3 to 4 weeks worth of materials, right? I would focus on using apps that's like, I use Buffer, Buffer. So Buffer is a scheduling app. So with that app, you can post up to 10 posts on 3 different accounts. So one could be Twitter, 2 could be Instagram, or 1 could be Instagram, 1 could be Twitter, and 1 could be LinkedIn, or it could be whatever accounts you do have. It also uses Facebook groups and Facebook pages. It's very beneficial because in one day you can post up to, like I said, 10 posts, and you could put it out for a week or 2 or every other day or every day. And another app that I use InShot, so InShot. That's basically how I put the visuals with the photos, or a post from Twitter, put it on a picture that I upload on InShot, and that's how I come up with some of my IG posts. It's very convenient because I try to stay consistent, making a difference. So one day I might post one of my favorite plugins to use. Another day I might post a short snippet video from the podcast explaining different things to be more insightful. Another post might just be, like I said, a Twitter post. And it's really about diversifying yourself, because the more traffic that you bring, the more it's possible for you to make money from putting out free webinars, free ebooks, free downloads, or plugins, or presets, or, sample packs. And then you can go ahead and make money from selling some of the sample packs, selling some merchandise, materials, services. Like, as time goes by, not right now because I like to stay in-house when it comes to mixing. When it comes to mastering, because I work with a few other individuals dealing with different services. So when it comes to production, mixing, and mastering, you can get in touch with me depending on what you're in need of. And as time goes by, we also going to be dealing with music publishing and song licensing. It's just a lot of resources I'm going to be providing as time goes by. Like I said, it's just building the content material. And as time goes by, it's only natural that people are going to just start working with you. Now, one thing I do recommend for people to do, okay, so let's say that's what you're doing for the first day. You just coming up with content that you can post for the whole week. Sit down, think of different topics that you can have for the podcast. Now, the podcast, depending on how long you want to use, and the app that I use is anchor.fm. It's a great application because you can do it from your phone. If you have a setup at home with the interface, you can record on any DAW you're using and go from, uploading it on Anchor and putting it out. And with InShot, that's how If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Make my cover for the podcast. And I really like the podcast because you can get sponsorships, people paying you to talk about their products, and it's unlimited. You can come up with as much content as you want. I would say be consistent on every week or every other week. Me, I do it every week, and it just helped to bring awareness on what your niche is. So your niche is a certain keyword or topic that you put your focus on. And on the second day, when you have your topics, like with me, I have 3 topics on each podcast. Depending on how long you want to go for, you could go for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You could go for 30 minutes to an hour, 2 hours. I know some podcasts that will go for 3 hours straight, but you got to figure out if your engagement with your fans are going to listen to 3 hours worth of content. I know it's possible, but if you're starting off, I would recommend at least 10 to 15 minutes just to get people, interested. I know some podcasts are just 5 to 7 minutes. With me, I try to keep the minimum 20 minutes, the max 45 minutes to an hour. The podcast that's coming out next is a 2-part with Jay Nolan. Shout out to Jay Nolan. He is a dope lyricist, one of the co-founders of Fresh and Local. Someone you want to get in touch with. His IG is Real Jay Nolan, RealJNolan. And in our podcast, we're talking about, the coronavirus, staying relevant in the music industry, networking, making sure your paperwork is right for your music so you can get more in depth when it comes to music business. A book I would recommend to everybody is All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. It covers everything from, who to have on your team, looking for managers, dealing with contracts when it comes to cross-collateralization, recoupment, making sure you understand if your first album sells 100,000 and your second album sells 1 million, you're 900,000 in the red. And, it gets more in depth on in the red, just understanding how to protect yourself and your music in the music industry. For the second day, record up to as many episodes as you want. I would recommend at least 2 episodes a day for 2 weeks. And that's enough material for 3 to 4 months. Honestly, that's easy when it comes to that. And even when it comes to the podcast, you might have a camera or you might have your phone. You can go on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, let people see exactly what you're doing, get more people involved with what you're doing during the coronavirus. Even talk about that, how it's affected your household or if it helped your household, if it helps you to stay focused on what you're doing. If you don't even know what you're trying to do, at least it's a way to track down what's going on around this time. So, of course, stay safe. Make sure you have hand sanitizers, wash your hands. It's really about being hygienic. That's a big thing for me because a lot of people, they don't wash their hands. They touching doorknobs. They're shaking hands. They wipe their face. And that's just a big thing. That's why I don't touch my face at all and limit myself from shaking too many hands because I do know for a fact a lot of people don't. So stay clean yourself. That's a big thing. Stay clean. Have your necessary precaution. And it's funny because now I'm going to Walmart, I'm going to different stores, and I'm seeing there's not a lot of paper towels in the store, toilet paper, hand sanitizers. There's a lot of soap that I'm seeing, so that's a plus. A lot of people fighting over paper towels. It's crazy. You see on social media, people are getting into fights over something that is a commodity. It's just limited, because a lot of people are going overboard. I can understand that when, there's a global crisis, a lot of people react to it. I feel like you should stay calm and think about the next move instead of what's happening at the moment. Think of your next move because it will benefit you, especially if you know what you're doing. Like with me, like I said, for the next 2 weeks, I'm focusing on the podcast, focusing on material, content, getting in touch with different people in the music industry that I can interview. This is the best time to honestly make money online. If you're an engineer, you need to be hitting up different artists who need their song mixed. Or if you're a mastering engineer, put yourself out there, get in touch with different artists that need their stuff mastered, or even producers too. There's apps out there like Upwork, Guru, Fiverr. Now, I know this one artist who told me that he sells lyrics on Fiverr. Now, that's something I didn't even know. I know they sell a lot of services on Fiverr, but now you can sell, of course, your production, your mastering, your mixing skills. Now you can even sell your lyrics. If you're a songwriter, you can make money that way. When it comes to the split sheets and the paperwork, I don't know if you're a ghostwriter or if you get credit. I'm in the hole when it comes to that because that's something I just recently found out. So this is something that I just jumped on. It's something that's not new. It came out in the 1980s. It's called the Pomodoro technique. So traditionally, it's 25 minutes in length, separated by short breaks. I love using that method because one day, let's say, okay, so this is how my day started. I woke up, I timed myself for 25 minutes. So a few things I've done. I started editing one of my upcoming podcasts, did that for 25 minutes. After the 25 minutes, I felt like doing some in-depth cleaning around the house, put up my clothes, laundry, made sure the dishes were done, just different things here and there. After 25 minutes of that, I came into the studio, did part of this podcast. After this podcast, I'm going to go ahead and work on the visuals for this podcast. After that, I'm going to go ahead and do some mixing of Izzy. Got to get in touch with him. After I finish with that, I'm going to go ahead and do some reading. A book that I have is a book about the recording techniques. I'm just trying to learn different methods when it comes to recording an artist because you never know. There might be something new. I get out the book and I just implement it on a daily basis. Just like Steve Habicki's mixing template, that is my go-to template on all my sessions because it's so simple, but it's convenient because a lot of people are talking about, using the next best plugins or, pay for plugins. It's cool, but I'll tell you this. Majority of Steve's plugins are stock plugins, and he got hits on the radio and people thinking that he's using some crazy plugins. And at times he do. It depends on the session and who he's working with. But the convenience of working in the box, the convenience is in itself. Of course, he used outboard gears, especially when he's in the studio working with Mike Will recording, because when he's recording the artist, he's recording, straight through different outboard gears like the Neve 1073, the TubeTech CL1B, or the Teletronics LA2A, and, it's printed into Pro Tools, and then from Pro Tools, he can bring it straight home on his Mac and work from there. So use what you have and don't feel like you have to have the best plugins, the best gear, because you can look on YouTube or do research on Google. There's a lot of people who would do reference from two different mics. One might be $60, another mic might be $700. One mic would be $100, another mic would be like $3,000, and they compare it. It's really about who's using the equipment, because if you know what you're doing mixing wise when it comes to EQ and compression, you can have the same tonal quality from a $700 mic to a $60 mic if you know what you're doing. That's the thing. A lot of people just push record, don't know what they're hearing, don't know what needs to be fixed. They put it out to the world, and then a lot of people give them negative comments, negative feedback, and then, they feeling like they did everything they could when they didn't do research. They didn't do what they need to do to make sure they're set up for success. So make sure you do your research, read a book during this coronavirus situation. Stay safe, stay clean, stay consistent. And in these 2 weeks, man, come up with material and content. So this is Ray from rebelears.com. Want to tell everybody thank you for listening and keep tuning in.